What does agency mean in the context of free will? Is the difference between involuntary and voluntary action only an indication of future behavior? And this is from Oliver Lyons Hartman. This is a good question. My disavowal of free will is not a denial of there being a difference between voluntary and involuntary action. Clearly, there's a difference between what you intentionally do and what you do by reflex or unconsciously. And there are many different ways to see this difference. I mean, one is that voluntary action is something you can cease to do voluntarily or in response to some disincentive. If someone says, listen, I'm going to fine you $100 if you park in that space again, well, then you can decide not to park in that space again. If you helplessly park your car there again because you can't do otherwise, well, then that's a very different phenomenology. And we would probably take you to a neurologist at that point. So there's a difference between involuntary and voluntary action. And as the questioner asks, it does indicate, insofar as it reveals intention, it does indicate something different about future behavior, very likely. The person who voluntarily mistreats people because it's an expression of his actual intentions toward others, well, then that's the kind of person who it's probably not safe to be around in the future. Whereas the person who's doing it unwittingly or by accident and who has no such intention to harm others, well, then the moment their mistake is pointed out to them, they're the sort of person you can be around safely. So it matters what is behind actions. Not all actions are equivalent, even if they cause equivalent harm, because voluntary and involuntary or purposeful and accidental actions reveal something quite different about what a person is attempting to do in the world and what they're likely to do in the future. So I think the distinction between voluntary and involuntary action is an important one, but it's not one that requires a belief in free will to describe. It's just there are things we do based on intentions or associated with intentions that align with our goals and desires and consciously held purposes. And there are things that we do as a kind of automaticity or by accident or in ways that are haphazard, that don't reveal very much about us. It's when you trip over something on the sidewalk, that doesn't say anything about your goals in life, right? Experientially, there are many differences between voluntary and involuntary behavior. But again, when looking at even my most voluntary behavior, I see no evidence of free will. You can deliberate about something for hours. What you finally do at the end of that process of deliberation, let's say you're deciding whether to marry your boyfriend or not. It doesn't matter how long you think about that. This could be the most deliberative decision of your life. What finally swings the balance between yes and no is in principle mysterious subjectively and is arising out of causes and conditions that you did not create. You know, if you love this man's smile, you didn't create your love for it. You love it precisely to the degree that you do. You didn't create his smile in the first place, right? That's pretty clear. You didn't create its effect on you, right? You didn't create that this is something you care about, okay? And so it is with everything else that you like or dislike about this person. Your associations with marriage, how important it is to you, how idealistic you are about it, how urgently you feel you have to enter into it at this point in your life. The advice you get from friends and family, its effect on you or lack thereof. All of these dials are getting tuned by forces that you can't see, did not engineer, and cannot control. And even your moments of apparent control, right? The moment where you finally feel that you're taking the reins of your mind and doing something. Well, that, again, just arises out of background causes that you can't inspect and which are moving you to the precise degree that they are for reasons that are inscrutable. So, I've talked about free will a lot. I've written a short book on it. There are talks that I've given on the topic online. I see no basis for the concept to be applied to any description of causation, mental or physical, we can come up with. So I really think it is one of these philosophical problems that should just disappear. And in its place, we find that more or less everything we care about is still preserved. And as I argue in my book and elsewhere, I think a few good things happen to our ethics. The main one being that there is no longer a rational basis for hating people. There's still a rational basis for compassion, and there's still a rational basis for a wise fear of dangerous people that could cause you to lock them up or even kill them in certain circumstances. But there is no basis for hating people, and that's something I've spoken about at length elsewhere.